That's it, time to start, everyone. Try to find a seat somewhere in the front. If you are standing all the way in the back, that is not a good position to be in. If you are standing in the back, you're basically long on Bitcoin. It's not a good position, let me tell you that. All the people in the back, try to sit somewhere in the front where you can see me and hear me and I can see you. Welcome to Crypto Malta! And welcome to the self-help group that we have become. Who lost some money this week? I lost some money. My name is Ferris, I lost some money. Okay. Good news is that today we don't talk so much about money. I mean, indirectly we do, and nothing wrong with that. But we are talking about fundamentals, stable coins and the Genius Act. Because it doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes to zero, as long as legislation is in place to tokenize the world. In this case, going to tokenize the US Treasury bills, right? Antonio is going to talk more about that. I am going to give a little introduction here. So we are Crypto Hub Malta. We are the blockchain community in Malta. Physically, we are at a place called Soho Office. It's a co-working space. They have like a spa and a gym on the first floor. It's nice. Second, third floor are offices. And here on the fourth floor, it's the event location with a Valletta view. We might have to relocate every time when it's the bear market. It's very dangerous to have the crypto people on the roof terrace where it's easy to jump. But look, we are all in this together, right? So fear not. I said already we're talking about stablecoins and Genius, but before we get going, I would like to know who is here for the first time? Up with the hand. Excellent. To you, the newcomers here, I want to say welcome. Don't be shy. We are all a group of like-minded people here to learn and share about blockchain technology. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask them right now. Any questions? Okay.
What crypto should I buy?
Exactly. You should buy the tomorrow. Crypto Hub Malta stablecoin.
Hey,
It's going to stay solid. Obviously we never said anything. And I'm making this joke, maybe you don't have a question right now, but you might have soon, And Antonio here will answer them, or me, or whoever. We are in this together, so ask your question, especially in the Q&A after the presentation, and I really mean it. Don't be shy. It's a kind of dicey issue. Some people were talking to me about stablecoins. They don't really know how this is interlinked with the Genius Act, and I don't think US regulators know how this is interlinked, because we're still waiting for the Clarity Act, right? And that has not been ratified, because they have been busy with other shenanigans. We are going to talk about that. Is it the banks? I thought it's Ripple, but it's the banks. Okay. I wonder if I have some announcements to make. Yes, we would like to thank the Bit Research. The Bit Research is a non-custodial trading firm based in Malta. They do a lot of research. You know me, I never read the articles. I read the headline and then I put in a long or a short. I lose it all. But the Bit Research, they try a different approach. They are actually trying to make fundamental analysis before they jump in. And that can be a smart thing, but it's also a lot of hard work. If you can identify with that and would like to know what they do, or if you're already into trading successfully and want to level up your game, go and talk to the Bit Research. I know they're in the house. Sometimes there's more than one. Tonight, I think it's only Fran here. He sits there at the table. Go say hello. And also, last announcements, and then we go to the presentation. Next week, we are going to talk about vibe coding. Who knows what vibe coding is? Okay, if you know about artificial intelligence and the rapid advancement, vibe coding is a term for people that don't know how to code, but know how to talk human language into an AI agent that translates whatever you say into solid code. Don't give the AI agent or the tool that you use access to your private key. Trust me on that. It is not going to end well for most of you. But there's a rich opportunity to build new things. Building used to be hard. Successful building is still very hard. But now you just need to have an idea. All those ideas that you have before you fall asleep in bed. Just put your phone on to an AI agent like Claude and tell this AI agent what you want to build, and before you fall asleep, not the next morning when you wake up, but even when you're still in bed, it is basically already there. So I'm saying this today about next week because we have a main speaker, Patrick from Smooth Operator, who was also here for the first live coding event we had in collaboration with them. But if you happen to have built something already, come and talk to me, go and talk to Damiano. Where is he? Damiano in the bar, or go talk to Magda. She's hiding, and she shall not be named or shown towards because she was the anonymous wherever she is. Go and talk to us, and we're going to put you on the agenda, and you can share whatever amazing tool you built. Okay, think about it a bit. We are going to have a presentation now. We are definitely for sure wrapping at 9 o'clock, but until then, you can fire loose with all the questions you have. And then we're going to stay here until around approximately 11 p.m. That's when I'm so drunk that they call the police and I have to go home, or they're gonna make me go home. Anyway, we're starting now with Antonio from Crypto Gemidzija.
So, good evening guys. For, 10, 11, we lost count some time ago. Obviously, you like me, so I come back. Now guys, today we have a very interesting topic, and trust me, you all want to know about this. Why is it so important? Because stable coins have practically became money. Now, stable coin, by all practically rules, are currently legal tender, which means that they can be used as money. And not only in the USA, this slowly starting to be practically everywhere. You can see it currently in Europe through Mika. Obviously, they're pushing, let's say, the European stable coins. That doesn't change the fact that slowly, the last presentation we had, where we were talking about the toilet paper in color. So every country has a toilet paper in color. We know in US it's green, the dollar. Over here is, I don't know, blue, whatever, it's euro. Now it's digital toilet paper. And we're going to talk about that. So before we do that, over here you can hear a statement from Gjorgiev. This is one of the highest, let's say, financial advisors to Mr. Putin. And let's see what he has to say about this, and where all this started from. Practically from this point onwards, everybody started thinking, is this guy really has something smart to say in this situation?
Америка прямо сейчас пытается поменять правила на
You
рынке
can read.
золота и криптовалют. Вспомните, какой у них долг. 35 триллионов долларов. В общем-то, это два альтернативных валютному сегменту мировых рынков. Действия Вашингтона в этом направлении отчетливо демонстрируют одну из главных американских задач. Они очень хотят решить проблему снижения доверия к доллару. США, как это было и в 30-е, и в 70-е годы, будут решать свои финансовые проблемы за счет всего мира, загоняя всех куда? В криптовалютное облако. Со временем, когда часть госдолга США будет размещена в стейблкоинах, США обесценит этот долг. Еще раз простыми словами, у них сейчас валютный 35-триллионный долг, они его загоняют в крипту в облако, обесценивают и начинают с нуля. Это для тех, кто очень...
So, this is practically the main subject. How we do this, and practically how they're planning to do this, let's say. So let me just come to the, just a moment, let me come to the presentation. Did I? There we go. Perfect. So as you can see, the idea is, according to this advisor, that US is practically trying to devalue its debt to the point it's going to be pointless to practically pay it off. We have seen this before. This is not the first, let's say, example. Just unfortunately for, let's say, the last century, whenever we saw this before, like in the Weimar Republic or in Yugoslavia, for example, or in Zimbabwe, it was not the reserve currency of the world. Which means in this case, when it's the reserve currency of the world, then it's a bit different. So in all these countries that I just mentioned, they did manage to inflate the currency to the point it's worthless. Which means whatever I owe you in this currency is, guess what? Worthless, right? Just the difference is, if you're in the Weimar Republic and you have destroyed your currency, that doesn't mean I will forgive your debt, because I will consider this debt in a different currency, as they did, right? But what we're going to do if this is the actual reserve currency of the world? Now, how does it work? Let's first explain what is inflation. So we need to understand this, let's say, mystified power that everybody is talking about inflation, right? Let's put it like this. Let's say that in this closed environment here, we have a total amount of $2 and 2 apples. This is a closed economical system, which means through means of exchange, it's normal that every apple will be $1, right? This is the amount of, again, toilet paper, but let's say money in this case, and apples, right? So in this case, it's very easy to conclude that we have $1, 1 apple, quite easy. Now let's say that somebody opens the elevator, throws another $2 inside, right? So this is a closed economical system. The only way to get some dollars in is, let's say, to the elevator. This is practically the central bank. Now we have 2 more dollars, which means that by the means of exchange here, we're coming to the point that now 1 apple costs $2 because we have more dollars in the closed economical system, right? So what is the problem here? Currently, apples, same amount, dollars more, we're coming to the point that the dollar just lost 50% of its value, right? And the other way around. Let's say that somebody just took $1 out from the first situation, took $1 and went down the elevator. So practically he's not part of the economical system. Automatically we have a situation where now 1 apple is only half the dollar. Why? Because we have more money than apples in this situation, right? So it's quite simple. This is the most basic way you can explain how we practically lose or gain value on the everyday products and services. Now let's go forward. If we put this in a system of a country, doesn't matter if it's the US or if it's European Union, whatever, same, doesn't change a thing. More we print money, so more money in the system, less apples, we're getting to the point that the money loses value over time, more we print, and what happened? The inflation rises. The inflation in this case is the power that we're talking about by which you're losing money in the currency. The bigger amount of money, the less value, bigger inflation. So the amount of percentage of inflation we're actually getting to month over month means that that's how much practically everything got more expensive. which means that in that month, they have printed that much money that made the apples more expensive for 2%, right? Now, if you say 2%, you say 2% is not that much, right? But what's the problem? They never show you the complete amount of inflation. They always show you month over month, because month over month you say, hey, it's just 1%, it's okay, it doesn't change a thing, right? But then if you see how it looks like over time, it looks a lot scarier than month over month 1%, right? So this is how practically it works in one country. More you print, the value of the dollar in this case goes 99% in the last 100 years, less, not according to me. This is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in US. So this is a proven fact, which means more you print, the less your dollars have value. Now we have been discussing this in the last presentation, where we were discussing how practically and who is allowed to print money, why they're printing money, how they're printing money, how they're doing the inflation. We're not going to go into that, obviously. You can check our last presentation from Crypto Hub Malta. What we are going to discuss is, this is done by every country in the world. Doesn't mean if it's capitalism, communism, anarchism, whatever. Everybody that has a central bank is printing money, which means inflation, it's not better on the other side, more or less is the same. And as you can see from the last time I updated these charts from the last presentation that we had, we have several trillion more to what we had before, which means that they have been printing money like there is no tomorrow. Again, doesn't matter if it's Small Britain, China, European Union, US, same. Everybody prints money. Now, we're going to be discussing this particular part of printing money. This is practically the debt of a country. This is the most important part for this presentation, obviously. Which means, it is a bit more complicated than we're going to make it, but we're going to make it simple so everybody can understand. I have prepared a strip for this, so don't worry, we have a comic, everything will be very easy. Now, the idea of a debt is that a country, when they need some more money, and they always need more money, what they do, they give you a piece of paper where it says, if you give me your money in this amount of time, I'm going to give you your money back plus an interest. This is the basic way of practically issuing debt from a country. This, obviously, everybody knows. But we're coming to the point, what, first of all, the lowering of the currency means for the country itself. Now, as we said, more printing money, the currency loses value. It's not always that black as it seems. Why? Even if the currency loses value, on the state level, there are some pluses. We need to point this out, for sure. Now, why am I saying there are some pluses? For example, as you can see, this is the main actor of our strip, soon to come. The idea of a low currency value currently for US is very important. Why? They have a very large surplus, which means they are importing a lot more than they are exporting. But since they have literally moved all their manufacturing in China, Vietnam, Taiwan, etc., obviously they have nothing to export. But okay, let's forget about that magical fact and let's say that they have something to export, right? So how are they planning to practically push for the exports in this case to make it more, let's say, the other side to want it more? What will make you want something more? The price, right? So currently, if I print a lot of money, in this case in US, I will make the value of the dollar less and less, right? So as you can see, currently the value of the dollar is like in the last 5 or 10 years the lowest. So what happens now? It means that whatever I want to buy from US currently is the most valuable for me. Why? Because my currency wasn't, let's say, in the last 5 years devaluating as much as the dollar, which means at this point, my currency is more valuable than the dollar. Let's say we're in the European Union, which it happens, right? We saw how the European euro was a lot mightier than the dollar, let's say, recently. So what happens now? It's a lot more affordable for me to buy something from US. So in this case, lowering the currency makes the country and their export more valuable. You actually want to buy them more because it's more stuff for your money, right? So this is a part that actually works into US's, in this case, in their plus. And for this reason, they are continuing the same, let's say, monetary policy to diminish the value of the dollar. On top of that, we have the tariffs. This is a policy that has been a long time used by countries that are mainly exporters, like in this case, China. China is the biggest factory in the world. For China, it's the most important thing that the UN has a low value. Everybody would say, but why would I have low value for the money that I have? Not you, for the country. For the country, it's very good because the lower the value, more people buy. Because it's cheaper for whatever you want to buy from this country, right? So for this reason, for the US, for example, it's actually very good to have, on top of everything, low value of the dollar. Now, as you can see in this small strip, comics, as you want to say it, we have two actors. The first one is Uncle Sam. This is regular Uncle Sam from America. And the second one is the president of the US. So, as you know who it is, obviously, let's say that in this situation, as we said, closed economical system, and we have Mr. Sam wants to give $2 to the president of the US to borrow him, right? This is practically buying bonds, bills, and notes. So when he gives these $2 to Trump, Trump takes these $2 and uses them to buy something in the economy. In this case, let's say they tell him, you cannot use the jet that they gave you as a gift from the Arabs, you need to buy your own. So he says, okay, these $2 I'm going to use, although this is quite cheap jet, but let's say it's $2. These $2 I'm going to invest in Boeing, and they will give me a jet. I'll buy jet from Boeing, right? So practically these $2 that was given by Uncle Sam to the country, that's why I'm saying the country in this case by the president, they were invested in the economy because he bought himself a jet. So these $2, they are not in the hands of the country anymore. What happens next? As I said, it's a lot more complicated in the real life because the country, in most of the cases, cannot print its own money because otherwise it's going to be very, very, very bad. But in this case, just for, let's say, in this particular example, let's say it can. Otherwise, it has to do it through the central bank, which practically buys the bonds, notes, and bills through the commercial banks from the country itself. But it's just, I would say, the same scheme, just with a middleman. But let's say it can print its own money. So in this case, Trump goes back to the printer, he prints 2 new banknotes that he owes to Uncle Sam, and he goes back to Uncle Sam, and he gives him the $2 back. We're not going to consider the interest, let's forget about the interest, let's see how this will be affecting a closed economy. As we said, in a closed economy, nobody is allowed to bring any money except for the central bank, in this case, let's say, Trump. So what happens now? Before, when Uncle Sam gave him the $2, in the whole circulation of this closed environment, we had only $2. But the moment he printed additional $2 to give it back to Uncle Sam, because the time has come, and he has to pay back, now we have what? $2 that are currently in Boeing, and additional $2 that goes to the person that actually bought the bonds, bills, and notes. So how does it look now in the closed environment? As we said at the beginning, remember, we make more money, but the same amount of apples, we come to the point that apples are now more expensive. So what happens now? Uncle Sam, yesterday, when he was borrowing the money, if he went to the market, we would have had a situation where 1 apple is $1, because we had only $2 in circulation and 2 apples. But now, since the other $2 are in Boeing, and he got additional 2 different dollars, now we're in a situation where, guess what? Now we have a situation where 1 apple is $2. So he thought that he made some profit, but he realized at this point that he just lost 50% of the value of the money he gave to the country. So practically, we're coming back to the basis now. Whenever you give to the country prints and gives you back, which means you don't have the same money. Those money are already invested in the company somewhere, or in the economy somewhere, they bought something, and you get new money, but for you it doesn't change a thing. You think that you still have the same amount of money plus interest. But what happens is, over time, we're coming to the point that everything is more expensive because we have a lot more money and a lot less stuff. The stuff, let's say, remains the same, but in this case, it loses value of your legal transfer, of your dollar. The same happens to the debt, because in this case, what do we have? The debt that yesterday, for example, was in this case a certain amount, more money we print in the system, more everything gets expensive, the worthless becomes the debt. Because the same amount of money that yesterday was, as we said, able to buy 1 apple, now it's able to buy half an apple. So with time, this is how they devalue the debt. We're coming to the point that the debt gets less and less worthy. And what do we have here? Except for the devaluation of the debt, everything else practically rises in value. Again, most of these things, believe it or not, they don't even rise in value. There was an economics professor on Bloomberg that said that if you take in consideration the amount of money inserted in the system, you will come to the point that all this 8 to 9% growth of the S&P 500 index year over year, is actually zero. Because this is adjusted for the inflation that was done by printing money and literally injecting it in the system. So we're coming to the point that usually most of these things that we see that are rising in value, this is the interesting part. They do not. What they do is they stay in the same value. But since we have a lot more dollars in the circulation, automatically they start losing value. No matter if it's real estate, Bitcoin, in this case gold, S&P 500 is the same story. So in this case, what they did, they devaluated we're talking about in the closed environment, in one country. We're still talking about one system. Because until this point, maybe you know, maybe you didn't know, it's not very easy to buy US debt. This has to be done through a broker. Plus in US, you need like some additional, let's say, who are you, why are you buying it, etc., etc. You cannot even have a brokerage account otherwise. Or in this case, you need to be a certain institution or a country, so you cannot easily buy US debt. We're coming to the point that they have managed this to do it with the Genius Act, that even if you don't know, you're actually buying US debt. They have managed to find the unlimited money equation, believe it or not. Now let's get to the point of the Genius Act. So the Genius Act, for whoever doesn't know, 15th of July 2025, was the actual law with which they made the stable coins legal tender. Now this is oversimplification, obviously. Why? Because there is a lot of, let's say, additional things that you need to know about this law, like who is regulating them, who is overseeing the treasury of these companies that are minting stable coins, etc., etc. But we're not going to go into it. We just need to understand the basis. How they are using the Genius Act right now, unlike what they were doing before. Before, it was, let's say, complicated but doable, right? The banks will buy debt, the companies will buy debt, other countries will buy debt, etc., etc. And in this case, you're doing it so that this 38 trillion is more they're buying, and as we can see in the last century, they lost 99% of the value of their currency, it's less worth. And I'll say it again, if the Weimar Republic lost their currency, the Deutschmark, we came to the point that, yeah, you lost your currency, but guess what, my friend? The French didn't, the English didn't, so in their currency, you are owing a lot, my friend. So in this case, whose currency do we take if they lose the currency that they have? Obviously, if we get to the point of hyperinflation, which is literally the future of every currency in the world, whose currency do we take to see how much is this debt worth? Let me tell you an interesting example. In Yugoslavia, we came to the point that the inflation was so high that if people had money, guess what? They didn't. At the end of the day, like they were losing 40, 50% per day. I have my father that was working in Serbia as a teacher for like 20 years. And since he didn't go to take the money right away from a Serbian bank, because we live in Macedonia, by the time we went to take the money, it was literally worth absolutely nothing. This is hyperinflation. But let's go the other way around now. Imagine if you had a debt, if you had an apartment to pay, and the apartment at that time was, let's say, $10,000. When the inflation hits, it hits your portfolio, but it hits your debt as well. Which means people were paying, believe it or not, for a full apartment with like a chewing gum. Believe it or not, I was, to this day, this doesn't happen every day, obviously. So the moment that we actually lost the Yugoslavian dinar because of hyperinflation, whoever had debt, they could have paid it off with like one coin for a full apartment, because that's how much this debt was devalued. Now let's get to the interesting part. As we said, the Genius Act practically put the stable coins into the equation. How did they do that? Now we have a situation where the stable coins will show the model of a stable coin, how they actually mint, and what does it mean for the in this case, notes, bills, and bonds. But see the popularity. Now, from the moment that they enacted on July the 18th, 2025, this Genius Act, this is the amount of treasuries that they have been tokenized. We're talking real-world asset tokenization, which is one of the main, let's say, subject of the crypto sphere these days. we have in, let's say, all these companies that have been minting US debt by tokenizing the actual bills, bonds, and notes, 3.5 billion till this was like 5 days ago. 3.5 billion tokenized US debt. And in the same time, from the moment we have enacted the Genius Act, 54 billion stable coins have been minted. This is $54 billion. So obviously quite popular. Let's see why. Now we're coming to the point to first understand why they're minting. What's the point of Tether or Circle or Paxos to actually mint money? Well, is there something for them, right? Now what we managed to, let's say, understand so far. Genius Act enacts that, let's say in this case, the SEC will be in charge, or whoever, the controller, doesn't matter, of controlling these companies to oversee the treasury, so nobody does that over minting or something like that. Let's say that this part we put aside and let's say it's safe. So we will assume that it's safe. So everything is running fine. Now let's see how it actually is done. If these companies can mint stable coins, but they don't have any profits, why would they do that? Why would I take your money and just hold it? If I don't have profits, obviously I'm not going to mint them and take the responsibility of this money. So I have to have some kind of a profit, right? Now, how do they have profit? With this Genius Act, they are legally allowed, they were doing it before as well, but now officially they're legally allowed for the amount that they have. For example, let's say that in this case, certain individual investor comes to Coinbase and say, I want to buy 1 million USDC, or USDT in this case, although USDT is forbidden, but let's say it's not. So in this case, Coinbase, because they cannot mint money, they cannot mint stable coins, they need to go where? To Tether. And they say, Tether, listen, we have a client that wants to buy 1 million USDT. Tether says, no problem. Here you go, we are going to mint 1 million USDT, and you're going to deposit in our account $1 million in a bank, right? So what happens next? In this case, with the Genius Act, they are allowed for a part of this money to buy short-term debt from the US. Let's say it's 30%. So from $1 million, they can buy $300,000 short-term debt from the US. And these days, the short-term debt, because the yield curve is extremely inverted, the short-term is actually more valuable than the long-term debt. So for 3 months, you can get like, I don't know, 3%, which is ridiculous, but welcome to economy 21st century. So these guys are rolling over every 3 months short-term debt from the US and making amounts of money you would not believe. Tether became one of the largest companies only with this, only with rolling over short-term debt from minting USDT. So practically, this is the equation of endless money. Like in a game, when they tell you the cheat code, how you make endless money. This is how it is done. Practically what they do, everybody gets a cut. Tether gets, in this case, let's say 3% from minting, in this case, 1 million, 300,000 from the 30%. Now they're planning to give through the exchanges to whoever, let's say, holds stable coins, part of this. Instead of Tether gets 3%, let's say Tether gets 1.5, and they give 1.5 to whoever holds USDC. So they practically give you an incentive for you to hold stable coins. Obviously, if JP Morgan doesn't stop it, as we are trying right now to do with the Clarity Act, but that's a different subject. So in this case, we have a situation where everybody is actually incentivized, especially the companies that are minting, to hold stable coins and to practically, in this case, buy short-term debt. But you know what's the interesting part? These guys that are buying the USDT, usually they have no clue that they're actually buying for 1/3 of their, for 30% of their deposit, US debt. Which means everybody in the world, not only Uncle Sam, but Pierre from France and Ivan from Russia and everybody, whoever buys stablecoin, for whatever reason, you will be part of financing Mr. President's debt. Now we have a situation where whoever, anywhere in the world, buys USDC, goes back to Circle. Circle for this amount buys one part US debt. Automatically, we are bankrolling the US debt, like it or not, every time you buy stablecoin. And at the same time, if before they were doing it in the closed system, where they were actually sometimes forcing their banks to buy debt, now they don't need to. With this trick, people will be actually lining to buy stablecoins. And now, just I'm gonna have a few words about the Clarity Act, because I can imagine most of the people that invest in crypto are very interested in the Clarity Act. Now, Clarity Act is actually the whole deal. Genius Act is only one part of the Clarity Act. Clarity Act explains everything about altcoins, everything about ETFs, everything about everything in crypto. So Clarity Act will be the backbone of the crypto industry in the future. Now, where is the problem? They have passed the Congress, they have passed one of the Agricultural Commission of the Senate, and now they are stuck in Banking Commission of the Senate. Now you cannot guess why. So we have all these banksters, as you know, JP Morgan, Bank of America, etc., etc. They don't want to allow everyday people to get reward for holding stablecoins, because that way, guess what? Finally, we will get this done properly. You know, banksters will be out on the street, and banks will be just a story for the past, for our kids to, you know what, son? We had these big vaults, and in them we had these amazing big piles of toilet paper that we were protecting with very, very, very thick walls, because, you know, this is a very, very expensive toilet paper. Now in this situation, believe it or not, as we have seen how it looks like, the crypto industry in general is getting so big. Currently, let's say, Kraken, Circle, in this case Coinbase, I would say all these big subjects, they're very, very, very incentivized, and they have a very large war chest to fight this to the end, and I'm sure they will. So the moment that we have this Genius Act finally passing, Clarity Act finally passing, and let's say this administration, why would they not allow every person to get part of the pie? They're devaluating the debt no matter what, right? But why not give everyday Uncle Sam 1.5% for his stable coins on Coinbase? So that's why I'm saying I don't think that the banking lobby will win, and I think just a matter of time before finally they allow the Genius Act to go together with the Clarity Act as it was meant to be, because this is the money printing machine of the future. We're talking global. They will incentivize everybody in the world to hold stable coins on some kind of a centralized exchange to get some percentage back, right? So in this case, they will manage to devalue the whole debt on a global level by incentivizing everybody with a 1.5%, something the banks will never do, because for them that's suicide. And we're there. This guy, believe it or not, with his Trumponomics, he actually managed it. As long as this continues as it is right now, and they allow this incentivization to continue with practically getting rewards for the short-term debt, just a matter of time before they manage to practically devalue their debt on a global level. Fun, right? They have found the equation. Thank you, guys. Thank you. See, short-term fun. Of course, of course. Just I'm waiting for Mr. Ferris to come, since he is the hostess.
The hostess, okay, so who wants to pay for the question? If you have any questions up the hands, maybe I have a first question. There is one there, but did I get this right? So this big gang, I don't want to say mafia, but let's call them the US government, right? They are actually setting this up to capitalize on the whole crypto industry, and then they will charge 1 to 2%. This is what Visa does. This is what MasterCard does. This is what all the financial intermediaries does. And if they get the Genius Act and Clarity Act through like that, you are predicting that actually they will have 1 to 2%. How will this work?
Sorry. So what did we say in this situation? We have a situation where, as we said, by giving money to the government, you're coming to the point that next time you come to the market, everything is more expensive. As we said, as everything is more expensive, it means that in this situation, the debt that the government has becomes less worth. What I'm trying to say is that the basic equation doesn't change. Doesn't matter if it's on a global level or it's on a, let's say, level of a country. Just the difference is that nobody else can do this except for the US. Why? Because they have the reserve currency. And nobody else wants to, let's say, why would you hold, for example, I don't know, euros in Zimbabwe? For what reason? Right? So, but if you hold dollars in Africa or in Latin America or whatever, it pays off. And guess what? If you hold it in a version of a toilet paper, not a lot of fun. But if you hold it in a digital version, Again, this is practically a private CBDC because they control all these companies. And as I said, the more people buy CBD, so in this case, stablecoin version of the dollar, they practically put more money in the debt to the short-term debt, and we have larger and larger debt. More the debt grows, more money in the system, less the money values. We're coming to the point less the debt values. So to the moment that, as he said, I think that the end game will be they come to the point that devalue the dollar and they say, you know what, guys, the dollar doesn't work anymore. Let's forget about it. Put it aside. We'll find something else. We'll pay, I don't know, from tomorrow, since they were paying in toilet paper, they will find some other, for sure, interesting thing to pay with. So I think that this is going to be the end game. They will just say, you know what, we were trying, we were holding on, but as you can see, the dollar has no value anymore, so let's just forget about it and invent something else. I think that's going to be the end.
What you're describing there, I agree, this could be the end. This could be the end game. Complain all you want, you like it or you hate it. This is genius.
And see at Gaza, for example, very, very interesting example. I really want you to pay attention to this. The, whatever the fuck that is, that wants to exchange the United Nations, they call it the Board of Peace. The Board of Peace. From the country that bombed 7 countries in the last 6 months. This is the Board of Peace. But let's forget about that. So the countries that destroyed Gaza, now, believe it or not, they will be implementing a special kind of CBDC for the Palestinians. Practically they're using them as lab rats. As I said, guys, don't worry, they will find something for you to pay with, which is completely controlled. So I really want to see, I think that Gaza right now will be exactly the experiment, what comes after the dollar. Because these people are helpless. Whatever you give them is not up to them. You tell them you either use this or you die, that's it. So I think that this will be a very good example what they're planning next. Control society, completely under the gun, and you tell them, okay, this is the only way you have to buy bread. You either buy bread or guess what, my friend? You can starve to death. As we can see, they allow it, no problem. So I think Gaza will be the way how it's going to be after.
Next question here.
Thank you for your presentation. I have 2 questions. One is like the amount of the stable coins now is, I don't know, maybe 300 billions, and so it's maybe 1% of the total amount of the US debt. So like it can be maybe a tool for Trump and for the administration, no? But how much it can be bigger, like also if it become 10 times bigger, it only solved like 10% of the US debt. So maybe it's just a tool, not the solution at all. So,
obviously.
And also, how does it connect with the Russian video? The first video that you show us, really interesting. Maybe like when I heard it, I thought that maybe at some time, like at a certain point, that stablecoin debt would be like banned, like after, I don't know, like make it a little bit bigger, and then at a certain point say, the stablecoin are not valid, only you can use only dollars. I don't know.
Okay, so the first question. There was you can kill me, I really don't remember the bank. I think it was like a Bank of America or something like that. They're expecting in the next 10 years, the amount of the market cap of the stablecoins to be in trillions. I'm talking heavy trillions. This is a private CBDC. This is having CBDC without actually making a CBDC. Why? This is actually one of the forms of CBDC you can do. Why? Because you hold circle by the neck. They want to freeze somebody's account very easy. Circle, Tether, Paxos, they can freeze your account easy. What I'm trying to say is that they will push this, if you ask me. I think in the future, this will be the main way to get more debt. You know why? If you see the last auctions of debt, they had to force their own banks because there was no buyers. Let's not forget, China is selling like crazy. China has managed in the last less than a decade to make it half of what they had before debt, right? So what I'm trying to say is when you have this polarization, obviously, nobody wants to have a situation like Russia where you freeze my money. Why would I do that, right? So we said, if you see the last situation, India, China, Brazil, all the main actors of BRICS, they all are selling like crazy. They don't want to hold US debt. What do? when you're losing the biggest buyers of debt, before China was #1 buyer of debt, you need to find an alternative. I think they will force this to be the alternative. And how they will do it, as I said, give everyday people 1.5%, they will give you the money. Because in the bank they will not get it. And they will say to themselves, you know what, 1.5%, this is, the government is behind us, so I have nothing to lose. In the other hand, let's not forget that currently, any exchange, any minter of stable coins is heavily regulated by actually the government, the treasury, or whoever is the controller of the banks, doesn't matter. So what I'm trying to say is that I think they will push this narrative. I think they will push to get more stable coins to everyday people so they can exchange what other people, what other countries or banks don't want to buy. And second thing, you were saying how this is connected to what he said. Let's put it this way. Why did I say to you the example of my country? We're coming to the point that you owe to a bank. So let's say that the currency didn't devalue. The currency was as it is. And there was no hyperinflation in Yugoslavia. Which means, in this case, you need to pay for your apartment the next 20 years. But now we're coming to the point that over the last, let's say, 3 months, as we saw in Iran. So in Iran, what did we see in the last, let's say, for example, two months? Every day we had like 40% inflation, which means the currency of this country, done, that's it. Less than toilet paper. So imagine that. This is worth less than toilet paper. So what's happening now? If you owe to the bank in this currency, it became nothing, worthless. So you can take literally $2, come and pay your debt for the apartment. You understand my point? This is exactly what happened. So what I'm trying to say is that if you come to the point to this currency to be completely inflated and devalued, the debt will be worth nothing. Doesn't matter if it's $500 quadrillion. It doesn't worth anything because you made the currency worthless. Same goes for Iran, same goes for Venezuela, etc., etc. But these are the freshest examples. Good like that?
No, it's not good. It sounds very scary.
That's why you hold Bitcoin. That's why you hold crypto, because they cannot print it. They cannot inflate it. That's why we're here, right? And to be honest, this is something that I would want to say from my personal opinion. Again, this is not a financial advice. But what I've been thinking heavily, since we're literally, if you ask me, it looks like we're in the beginning of Third World War. Everything that is happening right now, it's like the beginning of Third World War. What would you hold? What would you hold? You would hold dollars. How do you know that America will win? Maybe they will lose, like England lost, they lost their currency, reserve currency. Before that, the Dutch lost, they lost their reserve currency. How do you know America will win? How do you know that the other side will win? So you buy UN. So obviously, fiat currency is not the way to go, according to me. You want to buy gold? Okay, good for you. So you have gold. Now, how do you hold this gold? On eToro. And then eToro, for some reason, America says, you know what? We're going to decide to confiscate again all gold in America. And now eToro says to you, unfortunately, some guys in black came with a big black van and they took all the gold from us. So now we have just a number on a screen. So when you hold gold on any kind of exchange, you don't have the gold. Okay, you have 2 bricks of gold home. Okay, try to leave Malta with 2 bricks in a suitcase. Guess what happens? Try to leave Malta with 2 bricks in your suitcase. I can leave Malta with $5 billion. Not that I have, but I can live. If I have it, I will live with $5 billion. I will land anywhere in the world. Guess what? I'll just buy the next whatever legend, Elipal, and I'll have them with me. So what I'm trying to say, you need to really think about this because I don't see any other way now. Anybody else?
Next question.
Because I'll ask myself.
Thank you, Antonio, for this. I would appreciate it. So, as a European, I'm proposed to choose. If I'm asked to choose between Euro C and a digital euro, I would obviously choose Bitcoin. But beside that, probably I would prefer Euro C, right? Euro C. Do you think that there is a chance that Europe will imitate America and then will teach the digital euro in favor of stable coins?
Interesting question. Let's put it this way. They don't have a choice. Let's take my favorite von der Leyen. My favorite. Or even better, the central bank governor. Amazing. Intellectuals. Badasses. Now she says like this, I really don't want our market to be overtaken by another currency. Guess what? It's going to. If you people continue dragging your feet on the ground, it will. Why? Because it's very easy to use USDC and USDT. And guess what? You cannot stop me. If they don't stop me from America by freezing my account, you cannot stop me, right? Why am I saying this? I'll buy USDC and I'll use it. How are you going to tell me don't use it? So they did Mika, and now they're trying to practically force people and exchanges and everybody in Europe to use more stable coins from Europe. As you can see, the current market cap of the stable coins of Europe is like what, 1 billion something? And you have 300 billion in US. And on top of that, they have a scheme for endless money. Guess who's going to win? On the other hand, they are talking about the CBDC for what now? Since I'm coming here, like 2-3 years, even before, right? CBDC in Europe, it will never happen. You know why? Because they need to have unity. They don't have unity on the color of the sky, not on CBDC. So in this case, it's not going to happen with CBDC, no matter how much Senora Lagarde says to everybody, you know what, this is the future, cash or digital. The choice is yours. But if you use cash, you cannot use more than 200 euros to pay. If you use more than 200, in an interview that she thought she's doing with Zelensky, you know what she said? If it's above 200, then you're in a gray zone. And if we catch you, you go to prison. I mean, you gotta love this democracy and freedom in Europe, right? But let's get back to they don't have a choice. Because if they push with the CBDC, they will never get. Because somebody from the other countries in the unity will say, you know what? No, thank you. We don't want to be part of this. Which means it won't happen for the whole Eurozone. But in this case, if they don't want to be overtaken by stable coins from America, which is already happening, guess what? They need to push their own. And I think Mika was actually trying, this was the idea. We're gonna block everything, especially Tether. As you can see currently on Binance in Europe, they deposit Tether for you, they don't allow you to use it, you need to change it. But what did they do? The brilliant idiots, they allowed USDC. Like, you solved the problem. So no Tether, but USDC is okay. What I'm trying to say is that currently Europe is very divided on every question possible. And regarding this, there are countries that do not want to step further into unity. So I don't think it's going to happen, and I think they will get overtaken by stablecoins from America. This is my idea.
Last question about details. I don't know if you know. I'm just curious. Did the Genius Act and the Clarity Act specify a specific amount of, like a specific percentage of the emission of Tether, let's say, to be converted in bonds? I mean, is there like a fixed number? Or?
There is. So practically what they do, because they allow you to, up to a certain percentage from the deposit that you have, to keep in bonds, bills. Actually, in this case, it's always short-term bonds. You can kill me, I really don't remember because stable coins are not my forte. But there is a gentleman over here, I'm sure he can tell us. Do you know by any chance?
Most of it is bonds, but they have to have some liquidity just in case there is some big redemption. But the vast majority is for bonds. The vast majority.
But is there a percentage? Because I'm sure there is like a percentage of how much they can hold.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it's quite high. It's pretty high. It's like 80% or something like that. The
As long as it's T-bills, I don't think there's a limit. The longer dated bills, there's a limit.
Potentially, but you see, you need to be literally very like in this sphere to know this stuff, because when you start using it and you have something out of it, then you pay attention. But there is, as you can see, we have a confronting opinions. I'm not sure. Just ask. I will tell you for
Basically,
sure.
it has become a fractional reserve. Basically, it's there. Because in any case, they are buying that, right?
No, you know why? Because fractional reserve, how does it work? Kiko comes to me, he gives me $10, I give all $10 to whoever comes next, which means I don't have his money. But I already make double, because he has his money with me, and I gave this money to somebody else, so now they're 20. In this case, you're not allowed to. You're allowed to buy bonds, which means you cannot give the money to anybody, except for the, you know the guy. There we go. So it means you're not going to anybody, it's not a fractional reserve, it's the same amount of money, they cannot touch anything.
Got it. Thanks.
So, thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
I had a question for you. I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm just asking for the solution. So, my question would be, this is based on monetarism from the 70s, right? This problem. And at the time, there was actually the Austrian school. They were bullied out of the universities because you couldn't do this corruption. what I see this is just pure corruption. The question is, so every country, from Sweden, Europe, China, Japan, every country in the world has increased the amount of money, right? That's what you're saying. Now, historically speaking, this has never been solved in any other way than war. That's actually what you say as well, right?
Hyperinflation, actually.
Yeah.
No matter if it's war
Yeah.
or...
So yeah, in the 1930s, the Germans knew what hyperinflation was, and it came a war. And by the way, the Germans and the French wrote in the Treaty of Union how to, this should be not possible again. So now 100 years later, we're doing this again. My question is the following. Do you see any other solution of actually reducing the amount of money? Because that's actually quite simple. Because that's the problem, I would say.
Mr. Ford. Who knows here who is Mr. Ford? Genius. The guy that invented Ford Motors right now, one of the biggest factories of, automobiles in America, etc., etc. Now, this guy was a genius. I'm going to tell you honestly. And there is, for example, one thing that I go by, which is amazing. People are not capable of seeing, unfortunately, 2 steps ahead. Very, very hard. This guy was ahead of his time. You know what he said? If I ask people before I did my factory for cars, what do they want? They will say to me, I want faster horse. I don't want the car. So what I'm trying to say is that people are incapable of adapting. In this case, you know what he proposed before Bitcoin? Bitcoin was not even an idea. Obviously, there was not even computers. Now the idea is, he said, let's do like this. We're going to build a dam in a city. And the dam will pay by itself. We're not going to give anything. We're going to give the resources all together. Let's say we're going to take it from the city or whatever. We're going to build a dam. The dam will pay by itself by providing power to the people and people paying for this power. Guess what? Not only is it going to pay for itself, later it's going to make profits. What I'm trying to say, what is currently the one and only thing that is decentralized enough that there is no government behind it, nobody can hack it, there is no quantum computing, this is a joke. So what is the only thing currently that is decentralized enough? It's not Ethereum, because if you find Vitalik and you kill him, guess what? Guess what? You're gonna see what's gonna happen with the price. Go try to find Satoshi Nakamoto, you cannot. What I'm trying to say is that currently, there is this very interesting picture where you have the amount of printed dollars going like a Tesla rocket, SpaceX rocket, and then you have the amount of Bitcoins over time, which will be 21 million. What I'm trying to say, the idea of the blockchain of Bitcoin, which is currently, let's say, old, it cannot be used for smart contract capability or whatever comes after the second, third, fourth generation. But one very important thing, it can be an amazing store of value. As I was saying, a lot better than gold. Gold is not transferable. Guess what? Try to pay a debt from one country to another with a big amount of gold. Then you need to transfer it. Then you need God knows how much, let's say, security with it. You know how it goes. Let's not go over it again. But what I'm trying to say is that the solution is there. And don't listen to me. I'm some just guy or whatever from a random country talking to some people over a drink. Listen to Larry Fink. Listen to Fidelity. Listen to Franklin Templeton, to Invesco. These are the first, third, fifth, and seventh largest funds of investment. We're talking about the largest amount of money in the world. Right now, BlackRock has what? 13, 15 trillion under management. This is like larger than every country in the world except for the top 4. So what I'm trying to say is, if this guy says, listen guys, forget about this, focus on real world asset tokenization, focus on having 5% in your portfolio Bitcoin. What I'm trying to say, these big guys, they already saw it. We came from, you know how it is, this very usual scale. First is some technology, kids are playing in the basement, sending whatever internet money, it was fun. Then we came to the point, it's gonna die, just give it some time, don't worry, ha ha ha. Then we came to the point, let's try to ban it, this is becoming serious. Then China put ban one like 5 times. Guess what? Didn't happen. One of the biggest buyers in the world are Chinese. And we came to the point that we won. Guys, believe it or not, we came to the point that we won. The biggest corporations in the world are currently buying Bitcoin. We have spot Bitcoin ETF, we have future Bitcoin ETF. Currently, Nasdaq just won confirmation from the SEC that they will not have any limitations of any options or futures contract, like for Tesla, like for Nvidia, like for Google stocks. What I'm trying to say, we are in the big leagues right now. So everybody started buying it. Just, you know what's the interesting part? For example, right now, how does everyday people mind works? 60,000, I'm not gonna buy it. It's going to zero. Comes back again to 120. My God, why I didn't buy it? Then it goes back down. How many times we've seen this? 2017, I was first time in crypto. We've seen this roller coaster so many times. But as you can see, the waves are becoming smaller, which means becoming a lot stabler. Price in the future will be a lot stabler if you ask me. You know why? Because when the big guys finally buy it, they won't be selling it. What I'm trying to say is that what you see right now from BlackRock is some small amount that, let's say, went out of the fund. But long term, if this is just an amount of clients that just wanted to take profits, long term BlackRock won't be selling. Everyday people will, but BlackRock definitely not. So Bitcoin is the solution, if you ask me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We are just about to run out of time. Is there one important last question from the audience that you really want to ask before we close?
I have one more.
Okay, listen guys. Antonio,
Short one.
we're gonna do a speed run now, okay? This will be like 3
I'm just trying to
really
give a
quick-
proper answer. I can give short answers, but that's not the
Listen,
point.
you
Right?
can also talk to Antonio afterwards. 3 questions, super fast, and Antonio, you super fast answers. First one here.
I think you're right, Bitcoin will be the solution, but I think you have to really be careful that you have non-KYC Bitcoin. Because I think once the system will collapse, they will try to get your Bitcoin. And if they know you have, it might be not so easy to defend them.
It's easier than gold.
Easier than gold, yeah.
Easier than fiat.
That was a nice answer. Easier than gold. Boom. Next question. What's here?
Sorry.
Where was the next question?
It's a lot easier. Doesn't get easier than that. Like if I don't give you the phrase, you can kill me, you're still not gonna get it. You can see it, it's there, but guess what?
We got the answer. Perfect. Next question.
Thanks, Antonio. It was really enlightening.
Thank you.
The reward issue, which is still being negotiated in the Clarity Bill, if it doesn't get in favor of the stablecoin issuers / the exchanges, and if the banking lobby wins, how devastating you think that would be for the adoption of the stablecoin?
Just the first round. You know why? Let's put it this way. Why did Armstrong say, you know what guys? We're coming out of the law. No problem, here you go, do whatever you want. Why do you think he did it, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase? He could have fought tooth and nail. He has a bigger war chest. Long term, he's going to win. Guess what? Just see the last amounts that were given to the inauguration of Trump. Millions and millions of dollars from Kraken, Gemini, Coinbase. You think they're not going to do with the next president? Law is a law. It's going to change. Banks cannot do that, but Coinbase can. What I'm trying to say is that long term, laws can change, and they will long term definitely win the battle. What I think.
Now the follow-up.
Was there last third question? Was there last third question here? No? Okay, the last follow-up. That's the third question.
So far, the main purpose of the stablecoin has been that it has been used for buying the cryptos and the altcoins and all that, right? Now the Clarity Bill is going to change that, whereby it would be challenging the whole banking system, where the credit flows through your stablecoins and not through the traditional banking financial system. And that's why the figures you were pointing out, whatever 50 billion or something that came out after the Genius Act, is simply because there was this anticipation.
True, they're not for crypto, they are for internal transactions and paying it. Of course.
Right. So if this reward issue is not resolved in their favor, I'm still not understanding the rationale why the exchanges and the issuers would be able to issue the stable coins and still be bought by a consumer who is not using it to buy any other crypto or whatever.
So in this case, Coinbase, no matter what, they win. Let me tell you why. If the Genius Act doesn't pass, and let's say the banks manage to block it and it stops, Coinbase can still give incentive to whoever buys stablecoins. Because right now they're in a gray area that allows it. What I'm trying to say for Coinbase, it's a lot better to not go on and get this Genius Act the Clarity Act that will cancel the Genius Act, because they will still be able to give whoever has stable coins, they will be able to give the incentive, the interest. But if they go forward and they bring this Clarity Act, they will come to practically forbid themselves to do this. So that's why, for example, for Coinbase, it's better to just back off. You know what? Whatever. Cancel the law, we can still do it. On the other hand, I don't know if you saw the last news from this is that they had a meeting in the White House, representatives from the crypto side, representatives from the bank side. They're trying to find, let's say, common ground. Let me tell you something. If the government did this to be able to get more money for their debt, you think that they're going to cancel it now because of JP Morgan? This is a hack for the world to get more money. So I think that the government itself won't allow it, first of all, not to pass as it is right now. This is my opinion. Let's see. We're going to find out together.
We are going to find out, and here we have the reason why I am for blockchain adoption. Don't trust, verify. The next last questions will be 30 seconds. I will not trust you, both gentlemen here. I'm piercing my trust. We are going to wrap it up. I just want to say one more time. Next week, we are going to host a vibe coding event. So if you have been vibe coding something fancy that maybe is crypto related or blockchain related, please come up to me, Daniela and Magda, and we're going to have you here to present it if you want. Also, this is the last announcement, I swear. We are trying to experiment with a new format that we are calling the Business Click. This is done to understand what the businesses that you're working with are doing and how we can collaborate, bring out your ideas, bring out your ambitions here at Crypto Hub. So go and talk to Damiano, who sits over there, if you have an idea that is working for the Business Click. Antonio, thank you so much. Catch you later at the bar. And see you here next week. Short answer.